prayed together and actually agreed, to separate. I remember it was an emotional day for us. I got stressed about it, packing my things, leaving his bedroom, and all my feelings for my husband were gone. When I remembered the day we prayed that God help us, we are going to separate our beds, and I literally cried. I knew that God, only God, I would want to give flowers to my husband. If he's going to watch this video, mwah, thank you so much. That was not for the weak. It is for only strong men, and not in your own strength, but God's strength. Asperia. In today's video, I'm going to give you this crazy gist. If you're watching me for the very first time, my name is Asperia and this is my YouTube channel. For my returning subscribers, thank you so much for keeping it here. I love you so much. So I'm going to tell you reasons why I never had sex with my husband, yet we're living in the same house, doing everything together, and nobody knew this. So let's get right into that. Okay, so you guys, this is a story that I've always kept in my heart. Like, I always want to tell it, but I feel like, yeah, how do I even start? But you don't have to experience everything in this world. You can learn from another person's story. So I believe this story will, not just help you to smile, but it will also help you to learn something. So I've been with my husband for almost 10 years. But one of the things that I've always laughed about is a time we never had sex for a period of 1 year, living in the same house, doing everything together, and nobody knew. Like our friends didn't know, our parents didn't know. So I remember my friends would always ask us, "Why are you not getting, pregnant? Which family planning do you use? For me, I always, give birth after every 5 months and blah blah." And I would just look at them and laugh. And some other people be like, "Your baby is old, she needs a sibling, please get pregnant, man, a lot of stuff, you people. Sometimes you say things when you don't know what actually someone is going through. And so it would not take even a week without someone asking us, why are you not guys getting pregnant? It was that something that became a thorn in my flesh. I felt like, why are people bothered? Like, all the time we've been together, they've never asked us. So this time we are trying our best and they're the ones asking us. So every time I would be tempted to tell people, I feel like, no, is it worth? Sometimes when you are doing something, you look at circle of your friends and you feel like, is my story really worth telling them? Like, before it's done, there are some things that you do and you have to keep them a secret until they are done. And why? Because you don't want discouragements, or you don't want things like, no, this is not possible, you can't manage this, Allah. So because we had made up our minds, we didn't want anything like, you can't make it. I know it is something really funny, like telling someone that these people are under the same roof, but they're not having sex. How comes? How strong are they? Like, how, someone, I remember adjusting my friend and she was like, you're lying. It's not possible. You people can't. So I know even you watching this video, you could be curious to know how, why, what, how, hey, everything. So this video is going to give you full gist. So in 2016, in April, it's one of the best months ever. I remember it was a Good Friday. Soon it was almost Easter Sunday. So I gave my life to Jesus, something that I have never done. Okay, I had been in many churches, Pentecostal churches, serving, singing in choir. I know some of my friends met me in different churches, and at school I used to go to this, that, and I always had that false profession that I was a born again. and I lived to that. Like lived with Christians, served, gave, and until one day when man of God came and shared with me the gospel from the Bible, and I discovered that I personally was not saved. And so I had to give my life to Jesus. And that is the best thing that I have ever received in my life. You guys are going to forgive me. My voice is still thick. I've been having flu, cough, and yeah, but it's recovering. So hope you don't get bored. And so, after giving my life to Jesus, my husband was very happy because I believe he prayed for that day because he gave his life to Jesus before I did. And yeah, it's very hard sometimes to know whether your wife or your husband is really saved until they themselves discover the truth from the Bible. And there is always time for everything, time for every person. You would be in the same church, you can be in the same church serving, but then you realize that your significant other is not really saved. And we can't point fingers at them, it's their time. And so I started attending church fellowships, and remember I had been attending but not really so much. So this time I gave in my time. I had my baby, and the baby was about 7 months, so we could go to fellowship. I really had time. I wasn't having that big work. So I would go to church always every Wednesday, midweek services. And so I learned a lot of things through the Bible. And God spoke to me personally as a person through His Word that I needed to revive. Revive. I needed something like a revival. I needed to have time with Him. And so, as we continue to attend fellowship together, we had teachings about sin, about marriage, about relationship, and godliness generally. So we discovered that our relationship was really not godly. We had been together, we had a child, we were happy, we never had any problems, but we discovered that our relationship was not pleasing God. How? Because we had not gotten married officially, and that was very painful to me. One moment we had been in church, and the preacher was teaching about fornication. I remember that sermon very well, and that hit me so hard. I felt like tears were coming out of my eyes. I never cried in church, but I cried that day. I cried after service. I felt so bad. I felt like, God, I've disappointed you. This is not how I was supposed to live my life, bitchy bitchy. And you guys, if you've ever experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. And so I went home with my husband, and there is always that moment when you discuss what you've learned in church. And I asked him, Guy, what did you learn today? And he was like, I learned a lot. So, but we did not get the message the same way. So I kept it there, and I kept praying. I was like, God, how do I make things right with you? Can I really have a good marriage that will reflect you in my life? Can I really, settle things with you and start living a godly life and not in sin? Um, and yeah, I continued to study my Bible, and it spoke to me again that I needed to pray. So I prayed for what? Praying for my husband, that God will speak to him the same way he did to me. And so ah, things went on, and we continued to fellowship. But every time the preacher preached about sin, I always felt like, wow, God, every day they talk about me. What do I do? How can I come out of this? Remember, you are already staying and engaged with this man. You are having sexual affairs, and you can't just leave. You can't just, and at that time, we actually didn't have that money to do all the marriages ritual, starting from traditional marriage, and two up to church wedding. We didn't have money, honestly speaking. This is me telling you the truth. We didn't have money. And when you're young people trying to build up things, gathering bricks here and there, making life work, that is what we were in. And so I remember asking my husband, when are you going home to see my parents? Like, we have to get married. I'm tired of these things of every time you're in church, the preacher talks as if they're talking about you. I always feared even to attend church, almost like, should I stop attending church until we formalize our marriage? And I was like, no, you cannot stop because God has not chased you. And so I continued praying and waiting on God. And so one day, my husband asked me that, how much do we need, like, to go to your place and stuff? Honestly, we needed a lot of money because we stay where we stay. It you can even go like jump 17 districts to reach my district. So transport alone can do a party. You guys, it was really hard. I remember telling God, God, I don't know how you're going to do this, but I know for sure you will do it at your own time, in your own way. I don't have to stress about it. But the truth is, I got stressed about it. So we continued to attend church, and one day I asked my husband, hey, today what did you learn? Can't we just flee fornication and start living separate lives until we are married? And yeah, he kept quiet like, really? So I was like, now if I leave this guy, we are not of the same mind. Probably you could get another woman. So a lot of things were going on in my mind, but I had to obey God. And so we literally didn't have money. And so I remember telling him, you know what, we can live a life. Like, we can separate and live a life that pleases God as we wait for him to provide. And so he was like, yeah, what you're saying is right, but how? You know, there is a verse that says, flee fornication. Fleeing means leave as soon as possible, like don't do it again. So we had, like, you cannot go to God and keep praying, God forgive me, I've sinned, and tomorrow you again have sexual relationship with your husband, your boyfriend, and then you be like, yeah, God forgive us. You have to forsake. If he forgives you, you have to forsake. And so we prayed together and actually agreed to separate, and everyone was supposed to live their own lives. But then I knew my parents were not going to understand this, and my mom was not going to take it, and also I don't know how his parents would feel. And so we agreed, and um, that we were going to stay in the same house and have different beds, guys. I remember it was an emotional day for us. But yeah, we prayed that day and asked God that, God, give us the grace to handle this, because it came with a lot of temptations. And remember, we had no idea when we were going to have the marriage. Everything was just there hanging. And remember packing my things, leaving his bedroom, and organizing my bedroom in the same roof. And so I reached in my room and knelt down on my bed and I prayed. I said, God, we've begun this journey. I have no idea when it's going to end. I don't know how we are going to end, but help us not to fall again. There are some things that you can say and you still fall again, especially if it has to do with sexual relationship. Remember, all of us had been together. We had been having sex as as married, and so your body is used to each other, and this is you in the same house. Every time the man is looking at you or looking at him, nothing is happening. It is something that is not easy, but I testify that he gave us the grace. We didn't really do it until our wedding night. And so we had to separate. And people would come around and ask us, why are you like living in different rooms? I remember a friend of mine told me that, no, you are tempting your husband. At this young age, you're staying in different beds. And a lot of people had opinions. Probably one of the partners is sick and they have feared to leave each other. Probably I had a lot of things like people who would come to stay at our place and they look at that, and it was not easy. We had to cling to God because He was the source of our strength. And so we started prayers, and yeah, after it was hard for the first few weeks, but later we had to, make get used, and our bodies had to get used. I remember God, there is a way He switched off my mind, and all my feelings for my husband were gone. And yeah, I said, God, I know this is you. Hmm? He gave us the grace. I really know. And my husband had to be patient with me. I was patient with him until our wedding night. So, how did we come to the wedding night? Because we didn't have money to do the wedding. We didn't have money even to do the traditional marriage. And this we are not doing to please people, like to be seen as holy people. It was something that we did for our own spiritual lives, me, my husband, and I. And so you cannot just say, hey, why would you do this? Because yet you knew you don't have money to do the wedding. Yet you knew you didn't. No, 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 no. We did it for our own lives with God. It was a personal relationship with Christ, and we wanted, to solidify it. And so we started prayers, and I remember we one day he told me that, you make a simple budget. We see how to go to your parents, and other things will come later. Doing a budget, it's not simple at all because transport alone would cover even two cows. Yeah, but by faith we continue to do the budget and prayed and every day submitted that budget. Say, God, you know what? We are living in a hard life. We need your grace because anytime we can, be tempted and we get ashamed before you. So help us, please. And so we started, working around getting our marriage. And God made a way first. He opened His heavenly doors for us. I don't know how. How, I don't know. And we had to do the traditional wedding. We got money, our friends asked, God, there is a way God makes things, especially if you choose to surrender everything to Him. If you attended a traditional party, you know what I'm talking about. It was not for the weak. God made a way more than we even thought, and we had to do the traditional marriage. My husband paid dowry, visited my parents, brought all the nice things. Yeah, we had a nice party, nice food. People traveled from eastern to western Uganda, and yeah, we had good traditional marriage. And so after the traditional marriage, that night we went back home. Remember, there is no sex until we do marry. That was not marriage according to what we wanted. We wanted the wedding first before we start. We wanted like to start afresh again. And so after that, we went everyone to their room. It was not easy. Remember, party is really emotional that you feel like your partner loves you that much, has come to your parents, but then you've come home, no touch, nothing. You're like we're dating again. So we had set our priorities that no sex. Our principle was no sex before marriage. So even coming after my traditional wedding, we came home, everyone into their room, and we prayed, God, thank you for this day. Now that it is done, we don't know what next. We have no idea how the wedding is going to be, but we thank you for the milestone. And so we started again to plan for the wedding, and yeah, um, My husband was like, now the hardest part in marriage is the traditional marriage because it involves paying dowry, this, gifts, that, and that. So when we're done with that, my husband was like, wow, this is done. And so we can now plan on having a wedding. So, but because we had understood what a wedding is, it's not about having numbers of people, not about the food, the decors, the everything. We wanted something simple that we can have our vows, that we can have that commitment before the Lord and brethren. So, but of course, that human flesh keeps telling you, I have friends, they have to come and So we made our first budget. I remember people, our friends, are laughing at the budget. They were like, you guys, you're joking. You can't do a wedding with this kind of amount of money. And that was a big, big, big. This time I was like, so you're going to have more years without having, because you didn't have that money. And sometimes when you're doing a budget, you don't have to budget what you don't have. You have to only budget what you can, so that if anyone wants to give you a hand, they give to support what you already have. So by faith, we had some little money and we did a budget within our capacity. And so we continue to pray. I would submit that budget. God, this is your budget. I'm trying all this to make you happy. And so they were like, mm-mm. Our friends came through, supported us tremendously, more than what we thought, more than what we wanted, more than what we needed, and what we even imagined. So our wedding was marvelous. Like so big compared to what we wanted. When I think about the wedding, it was, if you attended our wedding, you know what I'm talking about. It's not that I'm adding salt, etc. No, I'm just bringing you that as a testimony to show you how things, if you submit them to God, how God can do them for you. So we had a very beautiful church wedding with over 350 people. I think 350 people. My parents traveled and came and attended the wedding. My friends attended my wedding. Our friends, my husband's family and his friends, relatives, everyone came to attend our wedding. But on that wedding day, I remember shedding tears, you guys. I had promised myself never to cry on my happy day. But when I remembered the day we prayed that God help us, we are going to separate our beds, and I literally cried. I knew that God, only God, would do that. Not man, not our power. Because I'm telling you this from the bottom of my heart. There are things that are extraordinary that our bodies look at and feel like, no, I can't really do this. This is really hard. But God says what is impossible with man is possible with him. And so my wedding, I was so emotional. My mom was really emotional. But deep inside my heart, I knew, God, this is the guy you have given me. I will love him. I'll give him my best because we have gone through the toughest temptation together. And I would want to give flowers to my husband. If he's going to watch this video, mwah, thank you so much. That was not for the weak. It is for only strong men, and not in your own strength, but God's strength. So in the next part of the video, I will tell you my experience in on my wedding night. Keep watching. If you haven't yet subscribed, subscribe. This is a channel that you should subscribe, like my video, share it with friends. Mwah.